All right. Sorry for being late for just a few minutes. Thank you guys for waiting. Happy to those of you who are already here and excited to watch the stream. We have Morgan, Schulksy, and David Elliott all happy to be here. Looking forward to it. What is up to you, Morgan? It's a beautiful day outside where I am. Beautiful day for anyone interested in football or fantasy football. A lot of big news and things have been going on. So let me know what you guys are most excited to hear about. I can go ahead and give just some of my thoughts on certain things. So, first off, and I just looked up like a list of trades and deals, signings, and things like that. I had a busy day at work, and so I wasn't able to keep up too much with what was going on, and then getting ready for the stream after work. So, let's see. The biggie is Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. Super interesting. He got kind of the Goldilocks placement for running backs for this offseason. So now it's like every other free agency running back we're less excited for, or like running back in the draft because the Chiefs was kind of that premium spot to land. However, for Kenneth Walker, 3-year deal, paid him a lot of money. I'm not incredibly excited for Walker. Like, I'm not going to shoot him up too far in my rankings. Definitely he got probably his best case scenario, but with the Chiefs giving him a 3-year deal, investing so much into him, I just don't think that they're going to give him like a workhorse role like they might have with a different running back because of Kenneth Walker's injury history. And so as someone who, wants Kenneth Walker to excel in fantasy for his health, I want the Chiefs to bring in somebody else to take some of the work off of a Kenneth Walker, either like a grinder back or a passing down back, just so Walker isn't out there as like a workhorse back kind of a player. Because the worst case scenario is that we have 5 really good games with Kenneth Walker and then he's not healthy for the rest of the season. So, Andy Reid, the Chiefs as a franchise, I think they're really smart. They know how to utilize players pretty well. And so I think that giving Kenneth Walker this much money, a 3-year deal, that they're going to use him, absolutely, but they're going to be careful with him. So where I would have him, where I think I need to move him in my rankings, is going to be still below guys like Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, probably right around like where I would have Bucky Irving, and like Travion Henderson, and that kind of a range is like a late 4th, early 5th kind of draft pick. He is one of those older players still. Let's see. Oh, he's only 25, so he's not like super old or anything, but really, I see him similar to like a Bucky Irving, James Cook kind of producer, hopefully like the majority workhorse in a good offense. But there's just more injury concern for me with Walker than like a James Cook per se. And so I'm not going to go crazy with it. I think that people are like hyping up the Chiefs like it's like such an amazing landing spot for these running backs, but the Chiefs haven't even been like a fantasy gold mine the past like 2 or 3 years like they were in the past. Like the Chiefs have been excellent for fantasy in the past. They haven't been for the past like 2 seasons. And so we really also need to see the Chiefs return to, like the 2 or 3 year ago form for them to be really this fantasy gold mine that I feel like people are kind of just expecting because it's the Chiefs. And so that's Kenneth Walker. Super interesting. Good for the Chiefs. The big thing that this tells me and what I'm excited for is that I feel like the moves that the Chiefs have made so far tells us that they're going to focus more on the offense and much less on playing a defensive battle like every single game. And I'm excited for that for a lot of reasons, for fantasy, but just to watch good football. And the defensive battle that the Chiefs were waging in 2025 obviously did not work And so, like, let's get the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. Let's get some weapons around him so that he can actually, do things, move the ball downfield. So I'm really excited for the Chiefs offense as a whole. And then let's see, another big one is Mike Evans to the 49ers. That's really exciting. I didn't really expect him to stay in Tampa Bay. And so for him, automatically is probably going to be like the biggest target earner for the 49ers. I think that's exciting for the whole offense, exciting for Brock Purdy as well. Not really probably going to move Brock Purdy because we were expecting them to make some addition at the wide receiver position. And so that was kind of already budgeted into the Purdy price, at least for me. Other people who are lower on Purdy might need to move him up, but I already have him pretty high. But that's awesome for Mike Evans. I think he's going to go from like an 11th, 12th round player to like going in this very similar range to a guy like Devontae Adams, which is like 4-ish rounds higher. So if you guys were listening, if you bought in on the Mike Evans stocks, then that's fantastic for you. I have plenty of Mike Evans from my leagues, and so definitely looking forward to that and how that works out. Travis Etienne to the Saints. Let's see. I think that's okay. I don't think it's better than what he had in Jacksonville, even if he gets the workload, like a bigger workload. He was getting about 70% of the opportunity share in Jacksonville this season. So even though he was splitting, it was still a pretty heavy lean to Travis Etienne. And I just have a hard time seeing the run game for the Saints being as effective as it was for Jacksonville, especially under Liam Cohen. Let's see. And then, so I don't think I'm going to move Travis Etienne much. He's another one of these guys kind of in the like Javonte Swift range, kind of between those two guys. In that general range where I'd probably have Etienne priced out at, or I had him before. I don't think this is a huge like up for Etienne. But it is good. It's not bad. It's just the situation with Jacksonville this year was phenomenal. Obviously, down the stretch, the offense was hyper efficient. So even if he gets a little bit more workload, I think it's going to be pretty similar. So that's good for Etienne, but it's like I'm not going to move him up my rankings. Wandale getting a bag though for the Titans. That's pretty sick for Wandale. Like good for him. He deserves it, but that's another one where I'm like, man, would I rather have Wandale as the wide receiver 2 for the Giants, or would I rather have Wandale as the wide receiver 1 for the Titans? Honestly, I don't even know. I think that's stock up for Wandale. He's definitely, at least, unless the Titans add like, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the draft, which I don't believe is something that they are aiming to do, then like Wandale is just going to be the wide receiver 1 there. So stock down on like Ayo Manor, DK, those guys for sure. They're probably like dead for fantasy unless the Titans just absolutely start cooking in 2026 and become like a good enough offense to support multiple viable pass catchers. I'm very skeptical of that. And so for Wandale, I'd probably have to move him up around like 8th round prices, I'd say, mid 8th round. Like I'd probably rather have Wandale over like a Jalen Waddle, probably rather have him over like Devontae Adams. Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things. So the question was with the Chiefs, with the Saints, Cardinals, and Chiefs all signing running backs. What are we thinking for Jeremiah Love? So, let's see. Draft order. I just want to visual. I'm a really visual guy. I just want to visualize draft order NFL 2026. Yeah, so I don't think that Love going to the Saints is out. like is not a possibility. I don't think ETN is like that good enough, that good of a running back that the Saints wouldn't consider drafting Jeremiah Love there still. And so I will say that I think he's still on the table for the Saints in particular, but the Washington Commanders for sure. If he falls to 10, I think the Bengals could take him, and then like you know I don't think the Raiders and Jets probably not for like pretty sure, like 99% sure, not the Raiders or Jets. I wouldn't put it past the Cardinals to go ahead and draft him. They it's no because they wouldn't have signed Algier if they were going to draft Love, because they would know that Love was going to make it to him, or at least have like a 99% chance to make it to him. So I feel like the Cardinals are also probably out, like pretty for sure. So the Titans, the Giants, and the Commanders, I think, are the big three. But if Love falls, I would have no like hesitancy to say that the Saints would draft him. Like, I think the Saints definitely could still draft him, and I think the Bengals could draft him. I don't think that he's getting to the Vikings. I really don't. But that's a possibility as well. Okay. Let's see. Alec Pierce getting an extension with the Colts. I really wanted to see him go somewhere else, honestly. Like, just Danny, I really like Alec Pierce. He's a great wide receiver. I just would prefer that a better quarterback were throwing him the ball than Daniel Jones or whoever's starting at the beginning of the year for the Colts. So that's a little that's kind of disappointing. I was hoping that Pittman would stay with the Colts, but apparently they moved him to Pittsburgh, and so now Michael Pittman is incredibly ugly. Like, that's actually gross. I'm gonna look up that deal. Pittman to the Steelers. Trade details. 3 years with the Steelers, man. Yeah, no, that I like Michael Pittman. I like him as a receiver. I like what how he plays. He's like a possession guy, and I don't think that it's a bad like landing spot for him from an NFL perspective. Like, Pittman in the short intermediate, Metcalf gets to be that like field stretcher, and I feel like they would benefit each other. But man, it's so gross for fantasy. Like, do we have any idea who the Steelers are looking at for quarterback yet? Like, what their plan is? Do we know if they're planning on running it back with Rodgers? So, Good Jungle asked, hey, how do I get my team reviewed? If you join the Discord, it should be linked in the description. If it's not, let me know. But if you get in the Discord, there's a team review channel. And then if you go to the pinned comments of that channel, it has all the instructions on how to submit a team review, the details that I need. You make it into a thread. That way I can review your team, and it's in its own little compact thread within the channel, so messages don't get muddled or anything like that. But you go to the Discord, join it, go to that channel, team review channel, and then go to the pinned comments, and it has all the instructions there for you. Will Howard forever. Yeah, Morgan didn't like my advice, so he did something else. Okay. So yeah, Will Howard maybe for the Steelers QB. If the Steelers can get a quarterback like an actual quarterback, the Steelers offense could be really scary. I think that with Pittman and Metcalf, they have a good line. They have some good backs. The rumors about Dowdle going to the Steelers as well. That would be a pretty good 1-2 pairing for like Dowdle and Warren. They could be pretty solid, but they need like an actual quarterback, like 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think is really getting it done in the way that they need him to. But it's actually like a solid core, especially with like Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth as well, to still run those heavy sets and move some guys around. So they could be solid. Will Howard is an actual QB. They just need to give him a chance. So, I'm not a negative Nelly. Please don't sign back Rodgers. I agree with you. I think Rodgers needs to go drink Mai Tais on the beach somewhere. For me and for him. So yeah. I just haven't seen it from Howard. I don't know. I didn't watch him as like a prospect really or anything. So I don't do a ton of like actual review of players and stuff, and so I didn't make it to like a Will Howard kind of a guy. So I don't know. We'll just have to see. I can't say with any confidence whether or not he's like a real QB. Because I haven't seen it. But I'm all for being optimistic for sure. So let's see. Rashid Shaheed going to the Seahawks, 3-year deal. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Shaheed was disappointing for fantasy down the stretch, but like he was a field stretcher. That's just kind of what he is. The Seahawks weren't throwing the ball a ton. And so I'll give him a little bit of grace. He came in like very late in the season, and so I don't expect players that aren't like top tier wide receivers to get traded and then come in and have like a big fantasy impact. I never expect that. Right? Like if I don't know, like Mike Evans had gotten traded at like the deadline or something to a different team and he was healthy, I feel like he's a good enough receiver that he could actually make a pretty big impact. But like Shaheed is not one of those guys that's going to come in and immediately just like be a guy. I don't think he had enough time, and so this is definitely not good for Shaheed. I was hoping he would go elsewhere, but I'm at least optimistic that maybe with an off season under his belt, playing with Darnold, getting integrated a little bit better, that he'll be utilized more. I know that it's harder to get synced up with those deep ball players on a shorter clock, but his usage was pretty bad. He had games because he scored touchdowns, but it was pretty bad. So let's see. I don't really know how to say your name, boss, but like Noda Haravish said, start Howard and see what you got, and if you go 3-14, then you can then they can draft a QB in 27. I think that's a good real life move, but that's super boring, and it's gonna tank my Michael Pittman stocks. So I'd rather not. Let's see, and then I guess the only big QB thing that happened was Malik Willis going to the Dolphins on a 3-year deal. I don't have like the deal details in front of me. It's probably not like a real 3-year deal would be my guess. Like it's probably like a can cut him after 2 years would be my guess. But that's interesting, an interesting move. I like it for Willis, obviously, like stock up for him. I had someone like as soon as the news dropped throw a trade, like a 24-hour exploding trade deal for Willis for my 27 first, and it's like no. Willis right now I'd say is probably in like the Bryce Young, like Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray bucket, and I'm not paying a 27 first for any of those guys. So not a chance. I'm giving it to Malik Willis. Okay, maybe he's probably closer to like Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, Michael Penix, where I have them in my rankings. don't know. It's just tough. It's like the high end outcome for him, I feel like, is looking like Daniel Jones from last season, and that's like the high end outcome. And Daniel Jones barely was like worth a first, even when he was popping off. So I don't think that I can condone getting that excited about Malik Willis. Oh, I'm clicking on stuff and I shouldn't be. Okay, we're almost done. So that's Willis. Like Gardner Minshew to the Cardinals, 1 year deal. Um, the Cardinals are still probably going to do something. So, or they could still make some move at the quarterback position. Either that, or they're just going to go with Brissett or Minshew. Minshew's like fine as like a bridge quarterback for a year, but so Brissett's probably also fine. Like Kenny Pickett to the Panthers, I don't really care. Mariota 1 year deal with Washington, I don't really care. Mitch Trubisky to the Titans, I don't really care. So those aren't things that I'm super worried about. Isaiah Likely being traded to the Giants, though, that is the big interesting move at the tight end position. 3 year deal, $40 million. That's super interesting. That's just super interesting. They could honestly be bringing him in to kind of replace the Wan'Dale Robinson role in that short area of the field. So I'm interested, but there's also Theo Johnson there, and I know that he's like I like him. He's solid. Like Johnson's probably the better all-around tight end. Isaiah Likely is probably the better pass catcher. So I'm not super excited about the landing spot just because he'll probably be at best like the third receiving option. But at least he's out of Baltimore. Could at least be like the tight end one for his own team. So those were kind of the biggest moves that I saw on my quick little search. If there's anything else you guys saw, wanted to talk about, go ahead, drop it in the chat, and we can mix it up. But for now, I would like to talk about some team reviews. Okay, so let me just get everything pulled up. I'm still a novice at live streaming. Okay, I made this is literally just a PowerPoint, so do not like be impressed or make fun of me. But I made this today. Don't make fun of me. So Kevin just said that I submitted a team review, and funny enough, 3 of my other league mates are also in the Discord and submitted too. Haha. Yeah, I'll have you guys trade with each other and just make all your guys' teams better. So so this is kind of like a team review archetype guide. I haven't been like using this to make team reviews. I've had my own independent process, and in order to better explain it, I kind of have made this whole thing so that I can present it better. So it's not like I've been using this and like copy and pasting it for every team. That's not what I do, but I made this for your guys' benefit. So let's see, table. Yep, here's the table. So I have my software up to the right, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't mess something up while I'm transitioning. So here's the table, and really I use my own like kind of algorithm type thing to determine your team's. Oh, let's see. That's fine. I use my own algorithm type thing to score teams on value and on production upside for the next season. And so that production does not include rookie picks. And it's basically just me estimating how good of a contender your team is going to be moving into the future. So we have for value, scores, range, it's a numerical score, and then I use the numerical score to assign value deficient a low value, average value, high value, or elite value to your team roster. If you're pretty close, or if you're between things, I might say like above average value or below average value. If you're like a little bit below average, or like enough below average that I don't want to call it average, but these are kind of the big tiers for how I score the value. And then good jungle, you're welcome. I'm glad you got that sorted out. I look forward to taking a look at it. And then basically the same thing for the production scores. So it's production deficient, poor contender, average contender, strong contender, and elite contender. And so when a team has like no value, no production, that's a hard rebuild. A team that probably shouldn't have tried to compete like last season used up all their value to try and make one last push for a championship. That's usually what I see for these production deficient, value deficient type teams. And they're in a bad state. Most of the time, the team reviews, I actually don't think I've seen a production deficient and value deficient roster yet in my team reviews. I've seen them in leagues. I've seen them like when I'm doing reviews, I see them on other teams. But if you're in the Discord, if you're on YouTube and you're like actually watching Dynasty content like you guys are, you're with it, and I guess you guys just know how to avoid having a horrible team that has to go into a 3+ year rebuild. But that's like the value deficient, production deficient. And then as your value increases, and your production increases, then your outlook would be different. So if you're value deficient, but you're a strong contender, then, I might recommend like a 1 year retool if you just have very, very little value. Because what I really want to avoid is someone contending for a year and then being forced into that like 3+ year rebuild. I would rather do a 1 year retool than compete for 1 year and then have to rebuild for 3 years after that. And so, for like a strong contender who's value deficient, I might suggest contend if I feel like your limited value is still fairly insulated. And you're not at a huge risk for having to do a 3+ year rebuild. Or if you're like an elite contender with no value, then you should probably contend for 1 year. If you really are like an elite contender, you have a really good chance of making a push for a championship. And again, on those teams, usually you will have some production the following year. Normally those elite contender teams don't fall off in just 1 year. And so I'm more okay with a team like that trying to contend, and then maybe doing like a retool or a short rebuild. And then moving along, as we just have more value in these tiers, I get more okay with, trying to contend or seeing what happens. So we go to average value, average contender. This is probably what it would look like out of a startup draft. Some teams, though, have average value but are really good contenders. Some teams, are production deficient out of a startup. Just kind of depends on who you draft. And so if you're just really like average in all regards, then that's more of like let's just see what happens. There's no need to have a specific plan. And there's kind of a wide range, probably those 9 boxes all surrounding the average have some element of like a wait and see. And then of course, as we get to higher and higher values, then we're looking at, even if you are production deficient, if you have high value, we're looking to either retool for a short period or just shift that high elite level of value into assets that can produce and be productive and help you compete. If you have elite value, not a huge reason to just sit on it and try and wait for it to mature and have like, an elite value team, when you can just convert your elite value into like cornerstone assets, highly insulated production, and then try and compete. So one of the ones I wanted to point out, like if you are production deficient and you only have high value, then that's probably a team where we need to do a 1 year retool, because it can be expensive to shift your assets from the draft capital, the non-productive assets into productive assets. You kind of have to pay a little bit. So if you aren't an elite value team, if you only have high value and you just have a ton of draft capital, it can you might need to wait a year. You might need to let those rookies mature or move some of those picks for veterans, but then draft some of those picks or push some draft capital to 27. And then, of course, if you are an elite value, like elite contender or elite value strong contender, things like that, then you're looking at like 3+ year contending windows. And that's what we really, really want to have. That's the best place to be. Okay. So I'm going to just go through some examples here. So like here's the value deficient, production deficient, 3-year rebuild. And really all you're doing, like you're making moves based solely on value, selling off any and all assets that we don't believe will increase in value. If you have any cornerstone assets, like this is not the time to hold on to them. You need to be down tiering and trying to gain your value as we go on. And then these teams that have such low value, I will have a much higher risk tolerance for these teams. If you have a ton of value, if you have 10 out of 10 value, like maximum value on a roster, you don't need to increase your value. It's not bad if you do, but what you should be doing is protecting that value, insulating it into high-end cornerstone pieces, draft capital, and players that have, a lot of value insulation. Because if you have a ton of value, you can use that, insulate it, and you'll have that high level of value for many, many years. But with these value deficient teams, I would have a much higher risk tolerance because those risks that you take can pay off big and help you get out of your rebuilds faster. Let's see. So low value, production deficient. So a little bit of value, but like no production. And so I have an example here. And these are real teams that I did team reviews for. So this team, it's a low value, 7.2, and then the average for this league setting of value is going to be 9.5, so pretty low, and then also production deficient, a 3.5, where the average is 5.6. And so we look at this team, and they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brock Bowers, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, and Zay Flowers, as really their only like real player assets. There's a couple other guys, like some upside shots there, but no one with like actual like real value. And then they also don't have a ton of draft capital. Not horrible. 107, a couple seconds, 27 first, couple 27 seconds. So if this team didn't have like a Brock Bowers or an Amon-Ra St. Brown, then that would be a production deficient, value deficient team, if you can picture that. And how poor that team's value would be. I don't hate this roster or this team. It's got Amon-Ra, it's got Bowers, it's got some insulation built into those two players. Obviously, I would want to down tier off of an Amon-Ra and Brock Bowers, and I'm sure that's what I suggested for this roster, looking at value. If this was a much shallower league, then this honestly wouldn't be like absolutely horrible. It wouldn't be as bad, but because it's a start 11, in terms of production, it's pretty bad because we're really only at maximum with this team have like 7 starters. And that's, again, if all the things go right, and then the draft capital is not fantastic for this team. So this is a low value production deficient and would be following those same advice and tips as like the value deficient, production deficient. And then let's see. Let's talk about, nope. Here we go. I wanted to talk about this team in particular. Let me move myself just a little bit. So this one was really tough. So this is like an average contender that has low value. And it is, the value and the production is weighted heavily by Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra, and Chris Olave, and then Derrick Henry for the production as well. For this roster, it's a low value, This is a pretty low value, 6.7. It's not quite value deficient, but it is low value. But then the contending score is pretty decent, held up again by Henry, Puka, Amon-Ra, and Olave. But this team has like no 26 picks, no 27 picks. They sold out. This team won the championship in 2025. And if you look at it, you can kind of see how it could be like an average type contender moving into 2025. However, it relies heavily on Puka, Amon-Ra, and Olave. It's a start 9, so we don't have to be that deep, but it's a super flex, or actually it's a 2 QB. And the QBs are CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Jacoby Brissett, Kirk Cousins. And so the QB room's not strong. The running back room is not very strong outside of Derrick Henry. And then probably going to have somebody who is productive enough from the running back room to be like an RB2, like Kyle Monangai, Charbonnet, Marks. One of those guys will be fine. Harold Fannon's a fine tight end, and then Jennings and Godwin are like fine flex plays. But really what this came down to for me is that I suggested this roster be like a 1-year retool. And you can look at it and squint and be like, yeah, I can see how this roster could be competitive going into 2026, how it could possibly win another championship. However, my problem is that with no 2026 and 2027 capital, if anything goes wrong for this roster, if one of the QBs gets hurt, or what if Kyler Murray doesn't end up with a starting job and CJ Stroud is your only starting quarterback in a 2 QB, or Derrick Henry gets hurt, Puka, Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, one of them gets hurt. What if none of the other running backs actually are productive going into 2026 and a 0.1 point per carry? And then Fannon and Hawkinson's a fine tight end room, especially in a no tight end premium, but like Fannon's not like a plus asset in a no tight end premium. Like he's not someone that's going to carry your team unless he is like the tight end 1. Like you need a top 2 tight end in a no tight end premium for the tight end to really have an impact and carry your team. The middle tier of guys, it's more like, do you have a guy that you can slot in that will score about as much as all the other guys in that no tight end premium type of league? And so really, if anything goes wrong, there's just no value to play with besides tearing down off of these cornerstone wide receivers. And if we're starting to tear down off of like a Puka, an Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, then not only are we destroying like the production, the core productive pieces on this roster that make it a contender, but we're also destroying the only value insulation that this roster has. And I'm certainly not going to suggest that this team move like a 2028 first at any point in season or in the off season. And so this one was super tough. It was super close, but it's one that I ultimately decided on being like a 1-year retool. You guys can let me know what you think of that, if that's a good decision, bad decision, or what you would do with this roster. I would possibly be okay with waiting and seeing. However, this isn't a roster where we can really wait and see. Like, it's an average contender. And so if we get into the season and the team's not doing well, it's going to be really, really hard to trade for the 2027 first back at that point in season. This is probably the cheapest time that they would be able to get their 27 first back. And if things don't go right, if this roster doesn't win a championship, then guys like Jennings, Godwin, Marks, Monangai, Charbonnet, Murray, Stroud, like even Henry, this team could really go to dust pretty quick. Like in a year's time, and really just be left with those 3 wide receivers. And that would probably, if things went really wrong for this team, could be a value deficient, production deficient team pretty darn quick. I don't think it would get quite to that point, but I just don't want to risk running into like a 3-year rebuild on this kind of a roster. I would rather do a 1-year retool and avoid having to spend multiple years trying to rebuild for one last contending push that I don't think is even like a very strong contender. So that is my thoughts there. This is an interesting team. It's a average value, but production deficient. And so the 101, 102, 110, 112, 201, 203, 204, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, like so many picks, multiple 27 firsts. So this person rebuilt and rebuilt hard. Genty, Fannin, and Stroud are the only real assets. So this is one of those teams where not enough value. There is plenty of value on this roster, but would have to transition that value really effectively in order to be a real contender in 2026. And so for this kind of a team, I believe the recommendations were probably like draft the 101 and 102, or like pivot off of them for some cornerstone pieces, and then pivot off of a couple of those picks, get some veterans on your team, like get some actual players, make some of these picks as well, and just kind of wait and see. Just because if we started churning and burning a lot of these picks, trying to get value, I still just don't know if we could build out a very strong roster. And with all these picks, I'd rather just move off of some of them. I don't want to make all of these picks, but draft probably 60% of these and then let those rookies accrue in value. Just not a team where I want to push to be a contender this year in 2026. Excellently done in the rebuild, by the way. Just excellent. Love to see it. Let's see. Let's go over to, this is like an average team. It's 9.4 value score, average 9.5, and then contending score 5.6, average of 5.5. So basically average in value and contending status. Has some high-end pieces in Allen, Puka, Devon Achane, Loveland, but then the depth falls away pretty quick. JMO being the wide receiver 2, Chris Godwin your wide receiver 3. Not something that I love. Quarterback room is good. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of like your average team, and I think that a down tier off of like one of Loveland, Allen, Achane, Puka, try and get some like extra wide receiver value was the recommendations here. But just like an average roster, and this is kind of a wait and see type roster. And then we have, let's go and let's see like a really good roster. So let's see. Here we go. So this is elite value, strong contender. So Josh Allen, Brock Purdy for the quarterbacks. You have Genty, James Cook, and Judkins for the running back room. Jamar, Brian Thomas Jr., Ricky Pearsall, Roma Dunze, and then Loveland and Laporta. This is a no tight end premium start 9, but this person has the 101 and the 104. And so for this kind of a roster, what I would like to see is probably up tiering some of these players and these picks, especially because it's a start 9. Maybe using the 101 and another asset, going and getting like a Puka Nacua, Puka Nacua, JSN to match with Jamar Chase, something like that. Just get the absolute best assets possible, or the 101 and something else to go and get like a Bijan. Team has a ludicrous amount of value, and so just up tiering some of these assets, getting even better players, and insulating that value. So the big thing again with this kind of a roster is insulating the value. So I like BTJ, I like Ricky Pearsall, I like Roma Dunze, I like Luther Burden. There's no reason to have really any of these players on such a high value roster when you can just trade a bunch of up tier these players and get an Amon-Ra St. Brown, add a Malik Neighbors, add multiple of those high-end receivers, maybe add another high-end running back. It's not not a bad thing to keep some of these players, but again, it's just kind of that thought that we're trying to insulate the value here. The goal, and I guess I can show you guys this as well. So like with this type of a roster, the goal is to maintain your contending window for as long as possible. You have the value, you are a strong contender, so let's keep it that way, and let's make moves that will keep you on top moving into the future. And so continuing to make moves for value while you can. Sorry, my dog doesn't like when people walk outside. Lulu. Okay, so yeah, so the other moves would be to try and hold on to your existing cornerstone assets. Don't let those go. We want that value insulation. Use excess production value, trade for higher upside assets or picks. And so if you have productive assets that are just sitting on your bench and you're not using that production, take shots on either draft capital, which automatically have value upside because they gain value, or assets that have production or more value upside than maybe the productive piece that you have on your bench. And then use excess value in draft capital to trade up for more productive cornerstones to insulate and produce for your roster. And then the last note here is just very low risk tolerance. Again, if you already have the value, you already did all this work, we don't need to risk losing it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Bark's in agreement. Thanks, Lulu. Absolutely no reason to put your value at risk if you're already an elite value team. Just store it up somewhere safe, draft capital, and like cornerstone veterans, and then make sure you keep enough of those other players if you can't fill up your entire roster with cornerstones. Obviously, not that massive amount of value to do that, but if you can have like 6 cornerstone assets on a start 9 or start 10, and then just have a couple more of those like veteran producers or upside plays on your bench to help fill out that lineup, that's what I would suggest for these kinds of teams. Lulu is an elite value and strong contender. Yes, she is. She knows what she is. Okay, let's go over to nope, not this one. This one. Okay. So this is not the first one. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the team reviews. This one is Onion Knight's team. And I am going to pull up the Dynasty Daddy. This is what I do for all the teams. I just go ahead and pull up the Dynasty Daddy so I can see the entire league, not just the team and the roster that I'm reviewing, but I want to be able to see what all the other teams in the league look like, look for specific trade targets. And so I went ahead and scored these team reviews. I haven't done any real critical thinking on them so far. The prep for the stream was just to get them ready so that I could review them, and that's what we're doing now. What I try and do for every team and every review is before I start actually thinking about what the roster should do, I make sure to score it, because what happened in the beginning was that I would start to have thoughts about a team, right? I would think about, what should this person do? What do I see? And then I would, kind of already be making decisions. And then when I went and scored the rosters, they actually didn't score how I thought they would. And so this is just kind of how I do it, no matter what. Okay, but we've got Onion Knight's team here. It is, and I'm just going to do this verbally, but it's an above average value team. Not quite a high value team, kind of in the middle of average and high value there at 10.7. And then also a strong contender at 6.3. And then in these team reviews, I have the value score and then the average underneath them. And so all these calculations, all these things change depending on the whether it's 1 QB or super flex, how many teams there are in the league, how many starters are in the league. And so I'm pretty set up now. I have all the most common league sizes and league formats in my notes. I have those saved away in my data bank, and so not much work now, but it was a lot of work up front. And so instead of completely changing everything and trying to scale it down to the same numbers, which was going to prove more difficult, I'm just going to put down an average for what this league format should be, and then you can compare to the average. And then again on my notes page posted on the Discord, I kind of have a guide that will help show what the numbers mean, and the different breakpoints for the numbers for different formats. So if it's a little confusing, it's really not. It's all explained neat and tidy in the Discord. If you guys are already in it, if you're not, you can check it out. So strong contender, above average value. Onion Knight said that he was a little bit back and forth, or I guess he said in the middle, not sure what he wanted to do with this team. And I look at it, I score it, and I'm like, this is a good team. And then for the settings, the special bonuses, I wasn't sure, but it's just 6 point per passing touchdown. I looked briefly and I saw that some of the points were inflated, and I didn't know where that was coming from, but it's just a 6 point passing touchdown for this 12 team start 11 league. So I look at the scoring and it's a good team, above average value, pretty good contender, even with some obvious holes because it's a 1.0 tight end premium, and he has McBride, Kittle, Njoku, Tonjes, and Hunter Henry. I'm not really worried about flex spots for this league because these tight ends in a 1.0 are excellent flexes. And so even, no matter what happens with Njoku, he's a guy that I would consider flexing. Hunter Henry, a guy I would consider flexing. And then having the combo of Kittle and Tonjes, even if Kittle goes down, you have Tonjes in the wings. I really like that. So you basically have 4 startable tight ends in this high tight end premium. So that's super solid. And I just really like how you have the cheap tight ends too. Like, you haven't invested a ton of value into the tight end position, but can still make full use of that tight end premium. And so then looking at the rest of the roster, we have Caleb Williams as kind of your anchor elite QB. And then between JJ McCarthy, Tua, and Kirk Cousins, I'm reasonably confident that one of them is going to be starting for most of the season at least. And so we definitely could do something at the quarterback position. That would probably be a focus, or that will be a focus, is to try and make a move in that area. However, even if you didn't, just having 3 different shots at a possible starter is not a bad way to play. In a 12 team, it can be a little difficult to acquire a starting quarterback, but it's not that hard to get one of those cheap guys that we know is really only like a 1-year rental. And you have plenty of draft capital. You have plenty of excess value, stuff to move, stuff to play with. So quarterback position, Javonte and Benson. Javonte is a good, solid, productive running back. And then Drake London, Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir. So I think your wide receiver room is also fine. We don't know about Rashee Rice, right? Like Rome Odunze and Jennings, or I guess Rome Odunze is like an upside guy. We don't know if he's going to knock it out of the park, if he's going to be, only okay, or he could even bust in 2026. We're not sure. But between those 2 players and then Juwan Jennings and Shakir, I'm not super worried about you having some starting wide receivers outside of multiple injuries and or suspensions. So with the 105, 106, and 203, and then all the other draft capital, there's definitely moves to make here. And so I would contend, I don't think you need to be in the middle with this roster. I see why you think that. It's not pretty. It's not a pretty roster by any means, but I actually really like the 105 and the 106 in this formatting, because worst case scenario is 105, you take Mendoza, and 106, you get Sadiq, and then you have another valuable tight end, and you have another quarterback. And with this being a 6 point passing touchdown and a 1.0 tight end premium, you might even get some of those, like a Tate or a Lemon or a Tyson. You might get 1 or 2 of those wide receivers falling to you at the 105 and 106. So, I actually really like the position that this roster is in, my friend. Okay, so that's kind of the roster notes, and the team direction is going to be compete. And with this level of value, and then this contending score, I think that you can comfortably compete for the next 2 years, as long as, nothing catastrophic happens. So moving on to the team goals, I would say securing a QB2, whether you want to get Fernando Mendoza in the draft or you want to use the 105 or 106 to try and up tier that pick, add something onto it, and get maybe even a better quarterback, then I have no issues with that. Possibly up tiering to a QB or getting another cheap option, right? Can you send the 203 and get like a Michael Penix to pair with Kirk Cousins? And then maybe, you have the entire Falcons quarterback room. We don't know if the Falcons are going to make any additional moves at quarterback. So I think right now is likely not the best time to be making quarterback moves. Probably want to wait until we have a better idea. And then like what I like doing is just securing an entire backfield. And so whoever the Vikings bring in, right, if it's Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, whoever, I know that not all those are likely with like the Vikings cap space and stuff, but we're just chatting. Whoever the Vikings bring in to compete with McCarthy, get that guy as well. But basically just lock down an entire backfield, even if none of those QB options are very attractive. If you just have like two different entire like quarterback backfields locked down, then you're going to have a starter no matter what happens, even if it's not the most attractive starter. I did that in one of my leagues where I had Joe Burrow, and then I drafted as my anchor, and then I had Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. I had the entire Steelers backfield, so like Rodgers and Howard and Pickett, and then I also had Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. And then I also drafted like Tyler Shuck super late and Spencer Rattler. So I actually kind of went overboard with drafting these quarterback rooms in that specific league, but they were also cheap. They all just kept falling, and it worked out because Burrow ended up getting hurt, and then Daniel Jones ended up getting hurt. But I was able to have a startable quarterback room all the way through the playoffs. Didn't progress past the semifinals in that league, unfortunately. A lot of factors, but my team was facing some injuries and difficulties. Had lost like 4 starters, so including those quarterbacks. So it was tough. But I had quarterbacks through the entire season, through the playoffs. Quarterback wasn't the issue. It was the rest of the team. And so that is what I would suggest for you for your quarterback room. For the running back room, with Javonte, I would love to add another cheap veteran to help get this room through. Probably a down tier from another player, add a running back, etc., or maybe up tiering. And I'll get into the Dynasty Daddy and give some more specific trade options in a moment. The receiving room, I would love to take either Rice or Roma Dunze and add either a 27 first or like the 105, 106 and up tier, one of those wide receivers, and just take the guesswork out of it. Get another elite wide receiver name into your wide receiver room. And then just depending on what else happens, kind of a last-ditch effort, if you aren't able to get other things done, would probably be to pivot from McBride to like a Bijan type, Bijan Gibbs, JSN, Puka, or down tier McBride, get like another productive tight end, and then like another really good producer for this team. But that's more of like a last ditch effort. I would really like to keep McBride with the current setup that you have, but if you are struggling to get anything done at the running back position or the wide receiver position, then or maybe even the quarterback position, McBride is a absolute luxury item in a 1.0 tight end premium like this, and you have some excellent tight end depth, and so that's something to think about. I would keep the 105 and 106 unless you're getting a good deal, like upgrading to like a cornerstone asset, because I think that you'll be able to get good players in this league and format. And then for the rest of your draft capital, because you have pretty good value and you're already a strong contender, I wouldn't mind sending away 27 capital or these second round picks as well. So then specific trades for this roster. We're just going to run through the Dynasty Daddy real quick. Let's see. Team 1, I'm not seeing a ton that I like. Let's see. Do you guys want to see the Dynasty Daddy as I scroll through it to like see what I'm talking about, or do you just want me to talk at you guys? Like, let me know, because I can do either one. If you want me to keep up the review screenshot, then I can do that, or I can pull up the Dynasty Daddy and have that on stream. So yeah, not really seeing anything of excitement here. Let's see. We have a rebuilder that has Brock Purdy, Cam Ward, CJ Stroud, and Jackson Dart. I really don't think that they need all of these quarterbacks in this deep rebuild. Their only other players are like Genty and Neighbors. They do have the 101. They do have an obscene amount of 2027 capital. I think that this would be a good team to trade with. You can either, so I guess the suggestions will be, I don't know if I'm good enough for some split screen action here. Of course, let me see if I can do something. Love to see split screen. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm an amateur, so we'll just give me a second. There we go. Okay. And then just fit this to the screen-ish, maybe. Let's see. There we go. Okay, I think that's good enough. Let me know what you guys think, but I think that is good enough. Okay, so this is team 2. So the ideas would probably be like 106, Rashee Rice or Rome Odunze for Neighbors or Ashton Genty. See if you can get that up tier done, or maybe throw in 27 first, 27 second, possibly, if that is. Thank you, David. I like to think of myself as a pro, even when I'm not. And thank you, Kevin. I'm so glad that you like it. So yeah, so those are the two options I would consider for those two pieces. Either one's fine. Solid up tier option with both of those. I would also consider like pivoting from Trey McBride. I would want something on top of on top of Genty or Neighbors for McBride. And so if you could get like the 201 and a 27 second from this team to move off of McBride for one of those two players, just get some extra value on top that you can use in separate trades, I think that would be a solid move. Again, I would prefer you keep McBride, but if you can't get much else done, he is an excellent bargaining chip in this kind of a league. And then, let's see, I would say just Cam Ward or CJ Stroud, whichever one you think you would have an easier time getting. Just go ahead and try and get one. CJ Stroud is not very attractive right now. I personally believe in him, and he's getting the GOAT Tank Dell back this season, so obviously he's gonna pop off again. It's not Stroud's fault that he's been bad the last few years. It's Tank Dell being hurt. Okay, just so we're clear, it's Tank Dell's fault. And while we're at it, you should probably just get Tank Dell off this guy's roster as well. Get yourself a new wide receiver one. So going back to being serious though, with your roster and what you have to offer, I think Trey Benson and like a JJ McCarthy could probably get you to Cam Ward or CJ Stroud, maybe throwing in like Khalil Shakir, Juwan Jennings, like the 203 and one of these backup quarterbacks could probably get you there. So like the 203, Jennings, Shakir, Benson, like any of those guys, and just a little throw in, try and get you to one of these four quarterbacks. Or you could even go after Purdy if you want to send like your 27 first and then a small piece, maybe like 27 first and like the 203, and try and get Purdy. I'd be okay with trying to get him. He would be an excellent piece to add. And then that wouldn't really hurt your production upside either if you could get that done. And this guy's in a hard rebuild, so he might go for that. So those are kind of your options there. Probably doesn't want to move off of Genty or Neighbors, so you'd have to give him a pretty good offer there. Okay, next up, let's see, team 3 here. Not really many quarterback options to target here, but they have a ton. This dude has a ton of running back depth, but not really many wide receivers. So this is one where I would suggest trying to see if you can down tier from like a Rasheed or a Rome. Maybe get like JMO or Cortland Sutton to kind of back up that wide receiver value, but then add on like a Scatabo type guy. So like, let's say Rasheed Rice and like the 203 or 206 or Jennings or Shakir, just adding on something small, seeing if you can get like JMO and Scat or JMO and Chase Brown for one of those two guys. Again, we're just trying to add on an RB2 without giving up a bunch of value or production upside. The other thing here would be to down tier from McBride to Kraft. You guys know I really like Kraft, and so if you could send McBride, get back like Tucker Kraft plus like the 112 plus like a Christian McCaffrey or a Breece Hall or a Chase Brown, one of those guys. I think that would be a solid move. And again, I'm just super high on Kraft. And so if you can get that late first, Tucker Kraft, and then one of these like very productive running backs, that could be a good move for this roster as well. That might not quite get you to the value level that you want. You could also play around with like down tiering from McBride to Tucker Kraft, adding on like one of these firsts, and then trying to see if you can get like a Josh Allen or Drake May, and just lock down like an elite quarterback. That's also an option if we want to go that route. But with this one, I'd prefer to be targeting one of these running backs because this dude probably is going to be open to moving them, has plenty of these guys. I like Chuba Hubbard going into next season. I think he could be like a solid RB2 for this roster. So if you can get him for cheap, that'd be great. Like do like a swap for like Jennings or Shakir. I think that'd be fine. Or again, doing like a wide receiver down tier, getting one of those guys. But keep London. Definitely we don't want to be moving London. Don't down tier from London to do any of that. Okay, next team. Let's see. This is kind of split weird. There we go. Again, could down tier to like Tyler Warren. Let's see. From McBride, that would kind of be like an obvious move. Warren's pretty solid. I just don't know where this team's at. They don't really look like a strong contender. They don't have any of like the high-end pieces that we're looking for outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think that you'd have to send like the 2027, your 2027 first, the 105, like, and the 106 in order to get Gibbs. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that a ton. But that's just probably not how I want to spend your value, is like packaging everything up just to go get one player. I'd probably rather use your value more efficiently than that. So this team I don't think is probably the best one to trade with. Okay, Shai Hertzlid. Hampton I think would be a much better target than Gibbs. This guy also only has 2 quarterbacks, so probably not going to be easy to steal one away from him. Let's see. Yeah, if you can try and get like a Byshell Tootin, DJ Moore, Parker Washington, something like that, down tier. Um, I just don't even think that's like enough. What I would suggest is if you can get off of Odunze, people are excited about him, and DJ Moore being traded away. If you can down tier from Rome and get Brian Thomas Jr., who I think are in very similar tiers, I have them like very close in my rankings, and then get one of these running back shots like a Tootin. I would prefer Tootin, but if you can even get like a Manungai, I think that would be a fine move because I have Rome and BTJ even after the trade, like back to back in my rankings. So that would just be some free value. And then trading up to get Hampton, if you can add like one of those first or a 20 or your 27 in order onto Rice, and go and get Hampton in that way, I think that could be a good idea. This is your team. Don't trade with this guy. Okay, here's another one. So this guy has Shador as his QB3. That's another just like possible low end ad. Let's see. Berg, Theo Johnson, Montgomery. Yeah, this looks like a team that's contending. Probably doesn't want to send away like a Jonathan Taylor, Dak Prescott, any of those guys. And so we would need to give them a productive asset in return. So if this is one where maybe if you could send Kittle and Tonjes, do that 2-for-1, maybe try and get something out of a trade like that. But I just don't even know what we would be targeting. Let's see. Going up to target because I don't think this guy's going to give up his running back value. I don't think he's going to give up his quarterback value. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, for this kind of a trade, you could see if you could get like add on Jennings or Shakir and one of your seconds. See if that gets this person excited enough to part with Jordan Addison. I would do that. Probably not much else there. And then I'd love to up tier again from like a Rice or a Dunze, using one of those firsts. Get to Lamb, Amon-Ra, or Achane here with this team. Buy in on Derrick Henry possibly. Let's see. I would consider, going after Daniel Jones here on this roster. I think a solid. So some specific ideas. I'm kind of just talking. So down tier from Trey McBride and get Laporta plus like a CD, Amon-Ra, or Achane, and add in maybe like a add on top like Jennings in a second, Benson in a second, Shakir in a second. Maybe do like send your 27 first, which we think is going to be early, and get back their 27 second, something like that. Do a pick swap. I could get behind that. Let's see. They're gonna want production. Maybe see if they're excited about Rome. See if you can do like send Rome and basically do they value Rome above Olave now? And if they do, then see if you can do like Rome in the 203 for Olave and Derrick Henry. If you can't, then I would also consider like doing Rome or Rice. I try and get send Rome straight up for James Cook, just that positional value, since you need a running back, and you're good on wide receiver. I would consider doing that as well. I'm trying to think of how to get Henry. I don't think that I would do like the 206 and Jennings, 206 and Shakir, I think, to go and get Henry by himself. And then for Daniel Jones, I would send the 203, and probably another second. I'd send the 203 and probably the 206 and just try and get Daniel Jones on my roster. If I were you, just take some shots, get some quarterback value, and that frees up your 105 and 106. You don't have to draft Mendoza there. You can use those to up tier elsewhere. And I think that person probably would be willing to give up Daniel Jones. Let's see, could go after Geno Smith on this roster. this is a pretty good roster. Like a pretty good contending team. A little bit shallow. This is like a start 11, I believe, so it's fairly shallow. Mm, let's see. I think this is a roster where if you could down tier from Rome, or this is a team where if you could down tier from Rome, get a trade, um, where you get Zay Flowers and like a Jalen Warren, and maybe only have to throw in a small plus. That's something I'd like to do there. And then you could possibly, I don't know, you probably can't. You probably can't tempt this team with McBride. Um, they already have Bowers, and it would destroy like all of their depth in order to send you, or in order to go get McBride. Okay, so here we go. The Bijan team. Um, let's see. Oh man, yeah, they're pretty decimated. This is a team that I think should be trying to rebuild this offseason. Like they have Stafford, they have Kyron, Nico, Higgins, Waddle. Like this is and Travis Scott. Like this is a team that could compete, but I look at it and like this is a team that shouldn't try and compete another year, because if they do, it could be one of those 3-year plus rebuilds. And so I would see if you can do something for Bijan, maybe send like McBride in a package, McBride in like the 106, and get like Bijan and like a small piece back. That would definitely fix your running back situation. And then because I think that you're contending, if you could swap like Rome and Nico, I would like that. Or if you can down tier from Rome or Rice and get like T. Higgins and DeAndre Swift. Again, Rice probably can't do that with, so it would be Rome. And I'm not like trying to hate on Rome a ton. It's just like Rice, you're not selling for price right now. Rome just went up in price because of the DJ Moore trade, and he's that like middling piece that's really good, like down tier bait right now. And there's just not a ton of options for this roster. I'd also consider like trying to get Swift another way, like Shakir or Jennings in 206. Try and get Swift that way. Maybe ask for a small piece back, like get Pacheco back or something. Just something to throw in. Yeah, and they have no quarterbacks either. Okay, let's see. This roster, I would pay up. I think that this roster should give you Patrick Mahomes for not too much, because it's pretty brutal. I guess they have the productive pieces, but this is another team that should really be in a rebuild. I would send a 27 first and probably the 106 and just get Mahomes. Like I love Mahomes' price right now, and I think that you could probably even get something small back, and literally just steal Mahomes off this roster. Not have to worry about quarterback and just be a dual elite quarterback team. I would do that, and then also try and get Saquon again using like Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, the draft capital and stuff is bait. I would want to get Saquon at like a decent price. Maybe like I don't know. Maybe you could send Rome and get Saquon and Devontae Adams. Maybe that would get the manager excited. And then you get the running back and you replace your wide receiver production with the wide receiver that's probably going to be like the same amount of productive as Rome is. If they want to make a move like that. And then with Dowdle, I mean, engage those second round picks. Try and get Dowdle. I think he's going to be like a low end RB2, high end RB3 type that you could plug in. And then again, like targeting Michael Penix, Malik Willis, if I can talk. Using the 203, 206, Shakir, Jennings, Benson, like any of those kinds of assets. This is one of the things. I would not send away the 105 and the 106 unless you're up tier and you're getting a better asset than the 105 and the 106. Do not down tier the 105 and the 106. They're too valuable. They're too good of assets at price right now in this formatting for you to move off of those two picks. Okay. Open, shut, case closed, we're clear. All right. And then the last one here, I'll go through it pretty quick. Again, I'd love to up tier to Puka or Jefferson using that same model, 105 or 106 for Rashee Rice from Adunze. And then Jacobs and Kenneth Walker, both pieces that I would love to target right now. Let's see. Man, this is just another one of those teams that has like no value, but probably because it's like just the values arranged so efficiently with these cheap quarterbacks, cheap running backs, cheap tight ends that probably going to compete again. That, you know, you probably aren't going to just be able to make a cheap deal for some of these guys. Would love to get Jacobs on this roster. I would probably down tier. Let's see. I don't know. I would move off of Rice if you can get Pearsall or Jacob or Myers, Pearsall or Myers plus Josh Jacobs. That would give you a upside wide receiver shot in Pearsall or some production with Myers, and would be getting Josh Jacobs in return. I really like Jacobs, as we talked about before. So those are the trades really. I probably wouldn't down tier from McBride to like a Pitts or Goddard. I wouldn't want to down tier that far. I don't think that's a good idea. So that's probably it. And of course, you can target the GOAT Will Howard on this roster. See if you can get him. But if not, then that is probably it. I probably took too much time. Let's see. Okay, so going over to the next one, we have Master Prater MP Discord username, my friend. So average value, slightly above average, contending score, as we can see, 12 team start 10 superflex, PPR 0.5, tight end premium, but you guys can read, I believe in you. I like how this roster is built out. Mahomes and Murray are good, like QBs, and then 5 like solid, high value wide receivers: Jamar Chase, Nico, Olave, Harrison, Luther Burden, and then has some decent like running back production that we can project out with like Montgomery, ETN, and also has Laporta holding down the tight end slot and a 0.5 premium. So I like that. I think that this is a good team. I can't remember if this one was just out of a startup or not, but I do like how you have the roster built out. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Dynasty Daddy as we talk, but for this roster, just like that, those are kind of the roster notes. Would be nice to have a higher end running back for this team, but I mean, it's not a must. It's a start 10, and so let's see. You can only start, I believe, up to 5 wide receivers. So you can start each of these 5 guys. But yeah, so you can start all 5, but it's not like super confident in each of these starters if we like build out the roster with Etienne and Montgomery, and then like Marv and Burden in your flex spots. So this is a roster where it's like just wait and see. You're a solid contender based on the quarterback production, the wide receiver production. Laporta is a good asset in a 0.5, and then you have some running back production. That's very serviceable. Jonathan Brooks, Rashad White, some upside plays. Alvin Kamara, maybe he's not done playing football, but we'll have to see. And so the goals for this roster, honestly, kind of boring, are gonna be probably hold at the quarterback position. Like Mahomes and Kyler are fine. At the running back position, like maybe if you get a good option, like a good deal option, then like maybe, but we don't need to make any moves at the running back position. We don't need to make any moves at the wide receiver position either. And I like this tight end room. You can always flex Tonjes if he's starting, if Kittle's gone or hurt or something. And then Njoku, hopefully if he goes to a good landing spot, can also be a good flex in a 0.5. So with the I guess the goal would probably be to up tier with the 105. I don't know, because you can also just hold and draft Mendoza if he falls, get a third QB, or um, draft one of the wide receivers that falls, or Sadiq. I don't know if you're into that. Whoever's there at the 105. So I don't think you have to move off the 105 by any means, but if you can get a solid up tier 105 and Burden and just get like a Chan Hampton type player, a Genti, the 101, then I think that those would be solid moves to make. But again, you just don't have to. Like, you have your 27 capital, you have the 28 draft capital, so I would probably, again, boring, would wait until the rookie draft, see if anyone wants to overpay for the 105. You can also, this would be a situation where I'd be okay pivoting off of the 105 if you can get a very productive running back, just because of the balance. It's kind of a weird balance between like starters and in this kind of a format, but overall, just making value moves with this roster, continuing to try and increase your value. So I actually have this as like slightly below average value, but Dynasty Daddy has you third in value, but it looks like one team has a high value, like a pretty high value team, and then the rest, like everyone else in the league, is just like at average or slightly below. Like everyone's super similar outside of that that one quote unquote super team, as Dynasty Daddy states, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. But yeah, so this is just kind of boring for this one. It's just, again, when you're average and average, it's kind of just like wait and see kind of roster. But I could see this being very competitive. You have really good trade bait with the 105, these wide receivers, and then ETN and Montgomery coming off of these like free agent signings / trades. So if you could like up tier Montgomery or ETN and just go out and get like more of a long-term solution at the running back position, I think that'd be a good idea. Okay. So, specific trades. Here is the super team. And I don't even think it's, well, I mean, it's kind of a super team. Like, a ton of quarterback value. 5 good running backs, or like solid good dynasty, like good to own dynasty running backs. 2 elite wide receivers, and then Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, J-Mo, Addison. So, that is a really good team. I think that it would be very reasonable to like down tier from a Nico Collins and get like a Josh Jacobs, Zay Flowers, or Josh Jacobs, Jameson Williams, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Addison. Kind of in that order. I'd prefer Flowers, then J-Mo, then Addison. I really like Baishal Tootin right now. Maybe you can sneak him away from this roster. Let's see. Don't really have any like value adjacent players that we're looking at between these two. So I mean, if you could sell him on Rashad White or Jonathan Brooks, if you could maybe sell him on David Montgomery and get like Baishal Tootin plus maybe like David Montgomery and a 27 second, and you get Baishal Tootin and Addison. I don't know. That seems like it might be far-fetched, but this guy is going to want to be up tiering, and so I think the down tier, using like a Nico Collins, don't down tier Jamar unless he's going to give you like Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra plus like a Javonte or a Josh Jacobs. I might consider doing one of those. Probably unlikely, but you can definitely check. But then other than that, yeah, just down tiering off of like a Nico Collins or a Chris Olave, getting like Zay Flowers, and then one of those productive running back type guys to kind of help fill out this running back room would be a decent move. Let's see. Oh, second. Master Prater is second in value. So, okay. Let's see. Moving on. Probably giving you guys like epilepsy. Scrolling so fast. I don't really see much like many trade options here. Probably would be interested in wide receiver. So maybe go see if you can down tier from like a Nico Collins. Or actually, you have plenty of wide receiver value. See if you can do like Kyler and then like Nico or Olave and just get like a Lamar Jackson and just get like a top 5 dynasty quarterback. We would, need to maybe do something about your depth, but this person looks pretty thirsty for some wide receiver value. And so if you can dangle a wide receiver in front of them and just get Lamar Jackson for it, I think that'd be a good move. You can find production at the wide receiver and running back positions elsewhere for cheaper. Let's see. If you can send Nico and maybe a piece and get BTJ. Oh, that's tough. I don't think, yeah, because you're not getting Chase Brown. Maybe BTJ and Tyler Algier, or BTJ and Parker Washington, and just getting some extra value, extra assets. This would be a good person to trade with if you can, but it looks like they're building for competing. Probably want to keep their 3 running backs on this type of roster. See if somebody would swap like, I don't know, Montgomery and Henry. I feel like Montgomery is just going to be more productive over the next 2 years or Henry's going to be more productive than Montgomery. You could make that swap. And then maybe send like a Nico Collins and get T. Higgins and Derrick Henry, or T. Higgins and Swift. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think I'd do for Swift. I think it would need to be Henry and T. Higgins to get Nico. And then maybe see if you can send Nico straight up for James Cook. You have the wide receiver value. And so I think that's a move you can make. And then any team, if you can send the 105 and like Marvin Harrison, or the 105 and Luther Burden, and you can get up into the like JSN, Amon-Ra, Neighbors, Gibbs, HN, 101, any of those tiers or any of those players that's that similar tier, I would do that, and just make an up tier, get an extra cornerstone. We can worry about the depth later. Let's see. Not much here. And everyone's a fraud in this league, apparently. So this is another team that looks like they would really want some wide receivers. So I mean, maybe Nico for Kenneth Walker plus like the 208. No, sorry. Nico for Walker plus the 108. I think I'd do that. Can you send Nico and one of the running backs and get up to a Drake London? I'd probably do that and just try and get a running back somewhere else. I really like Drake London right now. Let's see. Goff. Ooh, yes. See if you can down tier from Collins or Olave and get like CMC plus something else. Maybe like add Tua to your backfield, to your QB room, or like Ramondre Stevenson, just to get another shot, or like Christian Watson. I think that would just shoot up your production upside, getting like a CMC. And of course, then you would get another piece on top of him. Okay. Not much here. I like Hubbard. I like Dowdle. as some ads, but I don't really see like the way to get that value mixed around, so I'll have to skip here. Yeah, not much here either. I mean, if you get down tier from Nico and just get AJ Brown plus like a Michael Wilson or something, just kind of spread out your value a little more. Make some other deals easier. And then I do not feel the need to trade up for Brock Bowers on this roster by any means. You have Laporta, it's a 0.5. I'm totally fine with that. I don't think you have enough value to trade for like a Bowers. But you could go and get Daniel Jones or Michael Penix off this roster. I think that with this, if you could get like Daniel Jones and, there's not really a good plus to add on top of Jones for your 105. Let's see. Maybe send like a Burden or a Harrison. See if they're value equivalent to like a Bucky right now. If you can just do a swap. And then Olave or Collins, maybe you could send one of them, get Bucky, and then also get like a Daniel Jones or a Michael Penix on top. Fill out the QB room a little more. Okay, that is number 2. MP, and then we have Horch, his roster. Let me fix it. It's like horse with a G in it, and the G's in a weird spot, so I don't really know how to pronounce it, but I think it's just horse. It's supposed to be just horse. I don't know why everyone just has Trey Benson as like their RB2 in these reviews, but it must be something in the water. Okay. So value, a little low on value, 8.7, but very strong contender. So like below average value, elite contender. Actually, and again, this is a 1.0 and just has the Colston Loveland, Terrence Ferguson, Theo Johnson, Hunter Henry. What I'm noticing is that the elite contenders, or I guess the rosters that have limited value, but I find are really good contenders in these 1.0 premiums are the ones that have like one good tight end, but then have a plethora of these like cheaper, like super cheap tight ends that you can just plug into your flex. When I see these teams, I usually don't like the ones that are just overloaded on those middle round or early round tight ends, just because they lack so much at the QB, running back, and wide receiver positions. But whenever you can get like a good value on a tight end, one of the better tight ends, then just add on these cheap guys like Hunter Henry, like Theo Johnson, like Juwan Johnson, Dallas Goedert, etc. I really like how those teams look, and they have excellent contending scores. So, let's see. Horse said, Horse G is IT. All right, Horse G. So he said, or they said, considering down tiering from Shuck or using the 302 to get a gross running back. And so I was thinking about this a little bit. Getting like whatever running back you would get from a down tier with Shuck or using the 302, like it's not going to fix your running back room. You might get a guy that you can maybe toss in your RB2 spot and get like 10 points from, but that's not a fix, right? Then you would have a below average like running back in your RB1 slot, like not a good RB1 for that slot, and you would have like a bad RB2 for your RB2 slot. With this roster, it is a start 11, so we do kind of have to worry about depth, but you have these tight ends, so you don't have to worry about your flex spots, and you have some depth at the wide receiver position as well. And so I think that we should be making a move for a higher end running back. I think we should actually fix your running back room if we can. And although you don't have a super high value score, because you have Brock Purdy, AJ Brown, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, and then these cheap tight ends, you don't need a ton of value for this team to be productive and to remain productive moving forward. And so I think that the goal is going to be to actually fix your running back room and not to just like maybe put on like a loose band-aid and hope it gets you there, because this team can definitely compete, and I want this team to compete, and I don't want this team to compete with a shitty running back room. Pardon my French. So I think that we can make some moves to make this a contender for the next like 2-3 years pretty easily, that still has a pretty high value installation, and actually fills out the roster a little bit better. So for the goals, I'm going to say down tier off of one of Jason or Josh Allen, or move off of a Colston Loveland. And then to that end, right, the reason why I would want you to do that is to add on a very high-end running back to your roster, to really fix your running back spot. Because right now, like, everything else is good. Everything else is super tight on this roster. And so let's just go ahead and make it great. Specific trades, let's pull up the Dynasty Daddy again and get, this is the last teams, so probably should have done this before I turned it on, but I'm only a man. Can Will Howard play running back? I'm sure he is physically able to run the ball. I'm sure that he could potentially do that. Carry the ball, but I'm not confident in his ability to survive doing that. Okay, what does Dynasty Daddy have to say? Dynasty Daddy likes your team a lot. I like your team less than Dynasty Daddy, I think. But that is all right. Okay, so specific trades. Let's see. I wouldn't down tier your quarterback. Let's see. I went down to your QB, to any of these three guys. Like, just don't want to do that. Oh, and by the way, I want to keep Shuck. Like, I think he's a great value upside play. He's a great QB3 to have on your roster. Like, there's just, I don't think that, again, down tiering off of him is going to accomplish what we want it to accomplish. And so, I just don't see a big need to do that. If a deal comes your way that is good and we're getting rid of Shuck, that's fine. But again, I don't see him as a good piece to do what we want to do. Okay, so I talked about Loveland. I think that you could down tier Loveland to like a Brenton Strange for this roster. For this one, as long as you're getting like Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker back. Yeah, that's a little light. I would want more than that. I'm trying to think. But yeah, I don't know. Walker's price is gonna go, or his value is gonna go up now that he signed with the Chiefs. So, I would consider like Loveland, getting Brenton Strange, just another tight end to throw into the ring in this high premium, and then getting one of those two, Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker, one of those running backs off of this guy. And then because it's Colston Loveland and we're excited about him, I think that you could probably get a little extra. So I would consider, if you can just get like anything small thrown on, I think it's fine. You just have, I would love to keep Loveland, so like this isn't like the thing that you should do maybe right now, but if you can't get anything else done, I would consider that like either Strange plus Walker or Breece, or if you can get Warren plus Walker or Breece and just get two running backs for Loveland, and then your running back room is fine. Then you still have plenty of the like tight ends to go around. I'm more worried about filling out your running back room than I am about having Loveland in a 1.0 premium. If you're big on Loveland, you can definitely keep him. And I honestly think I do think he should be going for a little bit more expensive than what I'm suggesting here. So if you were considering that, I would probably start with like seeing if you can get BTJ and one of these top 3 running backs, just for the value to line up better, because Loveland should, I think, be more valuable in a Titan premium. But I also wouldn't down tier off JSN to Tet, I don't think, on this roster. Um, yeah, we're fine. We can move on. Oh, I guess if you can up tier, like if you can, oh, I don't even know. Because you don't have great up tier options. If you could do the 108 and Waddle and get Brees or Kenneth Walker, I think that would also be a solid move. And if you can send Waddle straight up for Jacobs, I would love to do that as well. Okay, now we're moving on. I'm trying to keep it moving. Keep it moving. Let's see. I would definitely down tier from Loveland to get like a Fannin or a Gadsden. The problem is that this roster doesn't have really like any other assets I'm super interested in. But if you could get like the 105 in Fannin, or the 105 in Gadsden, I would probably be tempted to move off of Loveland for that price and then use the 105 to try and secure a running back. Could also do the same with like the 105 and Lad, or the 105 and T to try and get off of Loveland, but I don't know if you would want all of those tight ends. Okay. Achan. Okay, so here we go. Here's Achan. Can you do like JSN and AJ Brown or Zay Flowers and maybe the 108 and get like a CeeDee Lamb and Devon Achan? So like down tier JSN, but then 2 CD, but then use like AJ Brown and the 108, and like get Devon Achan. Or you can down tier Josh Allen and get like Dak or Baker and just like get straight up Devon Achan. That would probably be a better use of your value, production wise, filling out your roster. Again, I only want you to move off of like one of Allen, JSN, or Loveland unless you're getting like a really like plus deal out of it. I want you to keep some of your studs, but I also want you to get a high-end RB2. Or so I guess high-end RB1. So then Harvey can be your RB2, and like Benson can be like an upside RB3 kind of guy. Let's see. And then could you swap like George Kittle, get George Kittle and Chase Brown or Cam Scatterbo, either of those two guys on top of Kittle, and get Loveland. But again, I just feel like Loveland's more valuable than that. So I don't know, maybe like Loveland in the 108, and then you get Ferg or Kittle and Achan for that. Maybe that's more appropriate. Okay. Let's see. This team literally doesn't have any running backs, so that's not helpful. They do have the 101. Maybe they want Colston Loveland in the 108. And you can have the 101. Who knows? Okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, JT, Swift. They have no wide receivers. I think this is going to be a good one. Maybe like AJ Brown and the 108. And you get like Jonathan Taylor. Or JSN. You send, let's see, JSN and Trey Benson. Send those two guys, and you get Jahmyr Gibbs and Jordan Addison. I'd probably do that. You lose JSN, high-end like wide receiver, but you get Gibbs, right? Like one of the highest-end running back, like RB2 in Dynasty. And then you would have Addison, AJ Brown, Flowers, and Waddle to hold down the wide receiver room. And you would still have like Allen and Bijan, or Allen and Gibbs to kind of propel you to victory. Of course, that's more of like a lateral move. I would much rather up tier from like an AJ Brown or than give up JSN, or down tier from Allen. So like what I would most prefer would probably be something with Loveland. And then second would be like a Josh Allen move. And then third and finally would probably be like moving JSN. Like I'd much rather keep JSN than like an Allen or a Loveland on this roster right now. You could also do like try and down tier off of Caleb Williams, add on a piece like a Waddle. Ooh, yeah, send this dude like right now, Josh Allen and Jalen Waddle for Caleb Williams and Jonathan Taylor, and see if you can get that done. Two guys that I don't really love right now at price, but like that would be a pretty good move to make for this roster. And then of course, maybe you could do like AJ Brown and Allen and get like Gibbs and Lawrence instead. And then you get to keep JSN, but still get a hold of Gibbs. Nope. There we go. Okay. Bijan, basically all the things that I said for Gibbs also apply to Bijan. And so if you can make any of those schmoves work for you, down tier off of like Allen, and get, honestly, if you could just pivot straight up, this guy has Michael Penix. If you could pivot straight up like off of Allen for Bijan, maybe add on a little something extra, and then you get Michael Penix back, I would consider doing that. Just because you have Shuck and Purdy, and then with Michael Penix, it would be a weak QB room, but then you'd have freaking Bijan Robinson, so that would be pretty cool. I would down tier from Loveland if you can, and get Kraft plus like ETN, or even probably Kraft plus Dowdle would get it done for me. Or see if you can do like Loveland and a small piece to get Kraft and Saquon. Genty Hampton 104. Okay. JSN for like Rice and Hampton, maybe. Again, probably wouldn't prefer that. This is one where maybe you can do like Loveland and the 108 and get like a Hampton or Genty done. I'd like that a lot. If you can down tier Allen and get like Jaden Daniels and Kyron, or Jaden Daniels and Henderson, I'd like that a lot. Yeah. And then if you could down tier Allen and get like Bo Nix. Let's do this. Let's down tier off of Allen, get Jordan Love. That's really boring, but then also get Bucky and Quinchon. Or Bucky and Javonte. So get like 2 running backs. Quarterback room is really boring, but then you have your running back room super filled out. See if you can do that. Nothing there. Okay, this one. Yeah, see if you can do like Loveland for Kyle Pitts and McCaffrey or something, or Loveland straight up for Cook. This is a 1.0? Man. I would probably want like Pitts plus James Cook for Loveland in a 1.0, and then throwing back something small. Like a Benson. Okay. That is it for this roster. And we'll do one more before we call it a night, I believe. So this is Marf's team. It's a little below average on value, and it's a poor contender right now. But have some draft capital, have some moves to make, so I think we can get there. The big thing is that the QB2 spot kind of sucks. Like, from a production standpoint, Cam Ward, right, upside value that's there, but like not really like a productive productive asset. And then the other thing is that it's a start 11. And so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like only 8 real starters here. So probably going to need to make some moves, some down tiers, in order to make this roster happen, and really be competitive in 2026. I really like that you have 2 2027 firsts, and oh man, this is a roster where it's close, where I'm really close to like just saying as do a 1-year retool. But on the other hand, it's like you have guys like Jalen Coker, Pat Bryant, Torrey Horton, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Knoll, Isaiah Bond, like Mason Taylor. You have some Isaiah Pacheco, like you have some upside. And so this is probably a team where I'd say hold and like mostly hold, wait and see, and just make moves to improve value overall, not really focusing specifically on trying to make a competitive roster. But if you can make a couple of moves, increase your value a little bit, and maybe make some down tiers, spread out the value just a tad as well, this could be a productive roster. I'd also be okay with this kind of a roster just saying, we're just going to do a 1-year tank. And maybe you move off of Lamar, but you keep in season or something, but you keep Puka, you keep Tet, and then everything else is fair game, and you just tank for 27. This is one of those in-between rosters. And so that is kind of the roster evaluation and the direction. This is more of a wait and see. If things don't look good heading into 2026, I'd say let's try and tank, 1-year retool, and then hit it again in 27. For the 106, I would hold the 106 in this format. Could end up being, Sadiq could be pretty valuable, especially if he gets like a good landing spot. You could get Mendoza if someone reaches on Sadiq, if one of the wide receivers could fall to you at 6 if they don't get a good landing spot. So I really like where the 106 is positioned in Titan Premiums right now. So I would hold that pick. And then other than that, probably like keeping Puka, holding Lamar, because I think his value is going to go up if he's productive in 2026. Like he's just going to go right back up to being Lamar. And then I would hold Addison. Addison has relatively like more value in a 12-team start 11, like a deeper league, because he's young. He's not that exciting, but he's one of those guys that you can feel comfortable plugging into your lineup for the next 5 years probably. And so I think he's undervalued, probably especially undervalued in this format. If this was like a 12-team start 9, I'd be way less excited about Addison, but he's just a really good flex play in this type of a deep league. So I feel like the value here would be down tiering from Tet and down tiering from Kyron, and just spreading out that value a little bit. So some specific trades in order to achieve that, if you can send Tet away and maybe get a T. Higgins plus a Parker Washington, right? Just get some more depth. That I think that's a good move, something that you could look to do. I don't have it pulled up. There we go. So yeah, so this team, send away Tet and just get let's see, 2 pieces, maybe maybe a Higgins and a McCaffrey. Higgins plus Parker Washington probably doesn't get there from a value standpoint. So I don't think I would do Higgins, Parker Washington. I like that idea. There's just not quite enough raw value. So maybe a Higgins and McCaffrey. There's your team. Maybe you could do try and down tier off of Kyron and get Josh Jacobs, right? Can you get Jacobs and then maybe a Isaiah Likely? Can you get Jacobs and this dude has the 101, 103, and 104. Dang, this is actually a pretty stacked team, honestly. Yeah, so maybe yeah, Kyron, down tier off Kyron, can you get Jacobs and then maybe like 27 second, Isaiah Likely, Brandon Ayuk, something like that. Just try and just churn some value, some additional starter equity out of this. And then maybe down tier from Tet, and like same thing, can you get Chris Olave, who I think like Tet's above Olave, right? But they're pretty close for me, like similar tier. And then get one of those same guys like an Isaiah Likely or like a Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman. Just some extra value, some extra starter. Or down tier off of Tet and get like the 10, and you could also target the 103 or 104 as well. Something like that. Similar type of down tier. Okay, and then here for this team, same thing, down tier off of Tet. Can you get Garrett Wilson and some other like starter value? Can you get Oronde Gadsden and Garrett Wilson for Tet? That's probably a bit much, but maybe if someone really likes Tet, they might go for that. I don't really want to down tier to Wilson for like a Rashad White or a Ramondre, but I would probably do it for like a Christian Watson. I mean, maybe if you could do Tet for Garrett Wilson and you get Tank Dell and like a Rashad White or Ramondre Stevenson or J.K. Dobbins, that could be pretty sneaky because I think Tank and Dobbins are both gonna gain value, so that could actually be sneaky kind of move to get some additional like starter, some additional player value. Here, maybe Kyron, down tier Kyron to Javonte, same thing. Can you get like a Chris Godwin, maybe a Dallas Goedert, something like that? Why is Dallas Goedert's like value so low on Dynasty Daddy? I don't get it. Like it's obscenely low, to be completely honest, compared to where he's being valued, like in startups and stuff. Let's see. Also, maybe down tier from Tet to the 102, Tet to the 105. Could down tier off of Fannin, and get like Goddard or Hunter Henry and some additional value. So like Harold Fannin, Javonte Williams, and then one of those other tight ends. Or maybe you could target like a Wandale instead. Yeah, just not a ton of like moves to make for this roster because I don't want you to move Puka, don't want you to move Jackson, don't want you to move the 106. If you could move Cam Ward, add on just a little something and get like Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, and just increase your production upside, that could be interesting. But again, you're still just short like multiple starters for this team unless multiple of these upside like kind of dart throw-ish type players hit for you. Okay. I would consider down tiering off of Tet and taking a shot on like Marv if you can also get like a Scatterbo or a Harvey or I guess that's kind of the list. If you can maybe add on a little something extra and get like Marv and their 27 first, I think that could be good. The more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning to just do a 1-year tank for this team, Marv. We'll have to see. Okay. I just don't know why Dynasty Daddy has... Oh, okay, I know why. So Dynasty Daddy does this thing where it just stacks value. And so Dynasty Daddy thinks that your team has a ton of value because you have like all these players that are in like the low 1000s. So Colby Parkinson, Mason Taylor, Isaiah Bonjack Best, Jalen Noel, like all these guys that really have very little actual value, but Dynasty Daddy's like, hey, they have some, and they have more than the rest of the guys in this range because they're young and they're wide receivers, even though they should probably never see your starting lineup unless they like break out super hard. And so Dynasty Daddy, I feel like, is really overestimating the value of your roster right now, kind of because of these like 8 guys, and they're not bad players to have by any means or anything. Like these young wide receivers that could break out are fine to keep on your bench, but I just think it's giving like kind of a false like high value for your roster, because like all of these guys add up to more than Josh Allen in value for Dynasty ID purposes. And that's just kind of crazy. Okay. Going back down, we'll go through this a little quicker. I mean, if you can get off of Tet, tier down from Tet, and get like a Mecca, Egbuka, or a Brian Thomas, and then also get like either Devontae Smith or Saquon Barkley. Maybe, yeah, I'd probably want like a Devontae Smith type or a Saquon Barkley. It's probably the lower area where I'd go, or maybe a 27 first and throw a little bit back. Here, if I can get off of Kyron, and get, or if I can down tier from Kyron, get ETN, and then maybe like put on another piece like the 210, 27 second or something, and get Alec Pierce as well. I would really enjoy doing that. Use Kyron as that piece to kind of get two actual starters, 2 actual players, and then I think that's about it from that roster. Wouldn't want to down tier off of Tet in this example, or in this for that trade partner. I would down tier off of Tet though to get Judkins. Pearsall's not enough. Can you go from Tet to Pickens and then get like Charbonnet or Matthew Golden or Josh Downs? Again, I have those guys in pretty similar tier, and if you can just get any value on top, again, if we're trying to compete, Pickens is probably better than Tet in the next year or two, likely, depending on that landing spot. But again, I'm kind of leaning more towards just retooling, trying to down tier off of like Tet and Kyron and Lamar and Fannin and just get additional 27 capital. If you can't get some of these down tier deals done. This is an interesting one. Let's see. If you can get off of Kyron, or yeah, okay, down tier from Kyron and get like Tootin and Manungai, I'd probably do that. And then let's see. This guy has pretty low value, but again, has some cheap QBs, cheap running backs, and Trey McBride, Jamar Chase, and some other solid wide receivers. So this guy's probably not looking to get off of these productive assets. But maybe you can get like Juwan Jennings and Derrick Henry for Kyron from this team. Or maybe you can do like down tier from Tet and get like Lad McConkey and something good. Like Lad McConkey, Derrick Henry, or yeah, I think you should be able to get Lad McConkey and Derrick Henry for Tet. Lad might be too valuable right now for that to happen. But I don't think I would want to move off of Tet for Lad and Chuba at this price. Okay, and then the last but not least. Yeah, I don't really see much here for options. The other thing, though, is to down tier off of Puka to one of the tier 2 wide receivers, Amon-Ra Neighbors, JJ, Drake London, CD, and maybe get roughly like a first of value on top. So I would want more than a second, leaning towards like a first of value. So it wouldn't need to necessarily be like a 27 first, but if you could get like in this format, I don't like Kyle Pitts, but it would be like Kyle Pitts level value. So like a Josh Jacobs level value, maybe like a Jameson Williams level value. back for one of these guys, I would also do one of those deals if you can get it done. Again, just getting more value, down tiering to a player that I think is in a very similar value range, getting extra value on top. Okay, and that is our last team review for Marf. For those of you who have been watching, thanks for doing so. If you guys have any questions about anything here for the last few minutes of the live stream, go ahead and drop those in the chat. If you have comments about how I do my reviews, etc., my process or anything, go ahead, ask that now. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I guess I'll tell you about my dog. So Lulu is a good girl. We got her from a shelter. You're very welcome, Horse G. Recently, she's an elderly, like, pit bull mix. And we are actually in the midst of waiting for her, like, DNA test to come back so we can find out what she is, actually, besides being, like, a dog and a pit bull mix. So that's pretty exciting. But we've had her for about a year now. And she is a very good girl, besides when she barks at strangers and doesn't get along with other dogs. But I don't see any questions coming in. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. Hopefully this all made sense. Hopefully you liked seeing my process a little bit, some of the team reviews. I actually write out these things. If it's not a live team review, like, I type it all out into a document for you all to look at. I type out a bunch of these specific trades instead of just talking through them. But for you all tonight, this is what you got. Hope you enjoyed seeing your teams talked about live, and I will see you guys next time.